morning and welcome to a daily review with Adrian H. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Monday the 21st of July, and I'm going to be stepping through the level logic indicators as we go. We've had a nice power of 3 day basically, so we've had this Asia range. Let me just change this so you guys can see the mouse. Had this Asia range in here. Asia and London accumulation. New York AM Q3 manipulation into expansion. What we're going to do as well, I'm going to put a standard deviation level on this. So this was our New York PM manipulation zone from the previous day. And this is what we're using for the main move of the day. This is on the 5-minute chart. I'm just going to mark out our main standard deviation levels. So we've got our SD 1.5. Uh, 2.5, 3.5, and 4. And we can see SD 4.5 hitting nicely there for the end of the day. So a daily high coming up to that expansion. So moving on to, so we've had our PM manipulation here, and then we've started our day, spiked up and down on the open, and then we've broken structure here for Asia. I'm just going to turn on, we'll look at C's first on NQ. And this is on the 4 hour. So what this is doing, where we see the green color here, green color is the internal range. So we're inside the previous H4. So as we come into Asia here, we then go internal to external. So we're starting to trend a little bit here on the H4. So this is where it's green, is inside the previous H4, and then the darker grey here is external, where we sweep the H4. So as we're going internal to external, price is trending. And we can see price comes down. So for the open, we came down into the 85th percentile, into the 95th percentile for Asia, and then expanded up from there. So only 5% of his historic candles would go lower than that for the internal range, for internal continuation. As we then go into our 2200 H4, this is normally the worst H4 of the day, and not quite getting to the external there. So internal to internal, but still trending. We come down to median in that the 50th percentile zone here. And then we go into London, and we go internal as well. So straight away internal and then into external, just into the 25th percentile there. Expands up into our external 85th percentile. This is during our London Q3. This is where we normally get our London manipulation. And so only 15% of candles during this H4 go higher than the 85th percentile. So good spot for the shorts there. Oops. And then as we go into New York, you can see we've gone from our internals to externals. And then as we get external here to external is our reversals down into our Q3 of New York. And then we reach our high of the day here at our SD 4.5. So let's take a look at more. We can see with that low, sorry, too, that was in that 75th. Just below median after we get that Asia low sweep. So lots of confluence down there. And the OTEs here, this is of the daily range. So from PDH to PDL, and we come down to that 709, 0.79 level there. So 0.79 of the daily range, 75th percentile of the external H4. And then we also had a inverted CB here, this one. And then one higher up as well. So if we turn off C's now, and then we can look at more. So more represents our open retest after a sweep. So as we get a H4 sweep, so once the low here was swept from the H4, this the indicator then comes on and then shows us the open retest amount here. And the same for London here. So once we swept the high, then the indicator switches on. So once we're over here and we swap the high, this turns on and shows us that retest value of the H4 open. So we had the 2 o'clock open and that showed us 76% probability of being retested. And then for New York AM, so once we broke this low, oops. Let's get rid of that now. Once we broke this low, this appears and then shows that we have 60% chance, 60% probability of the 6 o'clock open being tagged, which then gives us confluence for the long trade down here. Plus we have that 0.79 in the daily range, we've swept Asia low, and then we start inversing the CBs on the way back. And we're in that 75th percentile of the H4. You can see we had it down here for the New York PM as well. That was showing 67% for that 10 o'clock open to get retested. So nice, the nice points of interest for reversals or pivot points. We had this one with Asia from that 1800, but that was retested straight away. So very nice points of interest. If we then look at hyper, and we can see where hyper switches. So once we have an additional 3, I've got my settings, so it's additional 3 liquidity levels for the downside, then it switches to the red here. So we can see it's giving us an idea to start looking for shorts here, and then longs once we've swept those levels, and then back to shorts once we're up the high. And if we hit that replay button, so as we come back here, so we've come up to our SD 1.5 into London. Hyper has switched to red. Zoom in a bit here. You can see we've got our probability levels here. So CH means current hour. So 81% chance low here gets hit within the current hour and 87% chance by end of day. So current hour is these ones and end of day down the end. So price is coming up nicely here. We've made relative equal highs here. And then we're looking for a sweep of those highs into a breakdown to then target these liquidity levels. We'll switch more back on and then we can step through this as we watch. So we can see we're into the 95th percentile for the H4 open retests. And if we put C's on as well, we're in that 75th percentile. And if we step through, then here we get the bearish OB there. Oops. And we can do our 5-minute standard deviation. Using this whole swing, it's a little bit messy in here, but the idea is that we're getting that low that made the high. Then we have our standard deviations, and we can line them up with our liquidity levels here. And we want to target SD 1.5 and SD 2.5. Just lines up nicely with them. So we can mark this out now as a complete zone. And we'll call that our London Q3. London Q3 manipulation zone. So we went up into the 85th percentile on the H4. So only 15% of historic H4 candles go higher than that 85th zone. So stops looking pretty good above there for the H4. And we can put our short position. So looking for a retest of the order block here. And then we can target that SD 1.5 and SD 2.5. If we were bearish for the day, we could continue this down to SD 3.5 and 4.5 here. But we are bullish, and we do have our OTEs down here, 0.79, and possible reaction off of this manipulation zone here for continuation. So pretty happy with SD 2.5 there. I'll just turn C's back off. Make this a little bit cleaner. All right, so at this point, we have above 60% probability. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 liquidity levels. And we'll tick this through. Not quite tagged in. So we get tagged in there. This is during our 5 o'clock macro, so good time to get in. And the idea of the macro times is that the 1 hour candle, we're looking for that to open high, and then we want a low close. And then same for 6 o'clock, we want open high, low close. So price comes in, comes up, tags us in. I'm happy to stay in here. That's the end of that H1 candle. And now 6 o'clock, we want to do the same and start taking out some of this liquidity. We get a spike up there, which takes this high. So sweeps the 5 o'clock H1 candle. And then we have a BPR. So for BPR, that was made in here. And for bearish continuation, we want that to hold. We don't want any, we don't want price to come back and then close above here and continue up. And keep stepping through. So we're coming into 7 o'clock. Now, now we've got our 7 o'clock to open high into 7:30 and then continuation down. We can see now that we've swept that 4-hour low. That more now shows the open retest up here for the 60%. Just move these for a sec so we can see. So as soon as we break the 4-hour low, then we see the indicator switch on. There. There's the SD 1.5. Down to 2.5. You see now Hyper has switched to green, and we've got all the levels up here, you know, from like 76, 78% for the current hour to hit. So we're pretty happy to look for longs. We have this Sibi in here. This is where I've managed to just market long straight after this 9:15 candle close. And then I was just targeting that retest here. For the long. Alternatively, we can do a standard deviation from here if we're trying to front run that break. And then we can target SD 1.5. Which also lines up with SD 3.5 over here. And if we want to get a bit more excited, SD 2.5 up the top. So that was where I had taken profit. So low comes in, we sweep Asia. We have manipulation below true day open. And the idea being that the daily candle goes like this. So opens, low, high, close. So we want to catch the manipulation of the daily candle. And that is helped a lot with these indicators. So we know that that was in to the 75th percentile on the H4 and 85th percentile in morph. This is historic candles that break the low and come back for that retest. Let's go straight up to SD 1.5. And then that was our continuation to SD 4.5, which would have been best really for that second TP. Once we, now that we've swept that high, we'll get rid of these positions again. So once we hit the 10 o'clock open, and we sweep the high here, which is that gold line, then more opens up again. So I'll just quickly go back so we can see how that prints. So as soon as it sweeps the high, opens up. It's a plausible retracement in here. And for that low to get retested, we've got 66.2% probability. This is great when when price takes off and doesn't test it, because you want this to get as high as possible. So then you can catch the short back down. And we can do a standard deviation from here now to get that break. And then against trend, we're normally looking at SD1 to 1.5. We start to see reversals again. So if shorting this zone, so which is from Q3, once we get that break, stop above the high, SD1 to 1.5. This is our Q4 manipulation. Q3 manipulation is this leg. Q4 from the high. You can see how there's our open retest, 66% done. You can see how the levels, as we go into the PM, they're all adjusting and changing as time goes by. They sort of decay away as there's less time in the day for them to get hit. We get it there, SD 1.5. Just hitting there. At the end of the day into the 1600. And stock would have only just survived from that high. Then once that low gets taken, then we get another zone prints, and we can see the open retest is very low there. So definitely not worth getting longs in here when you have only 14% probability of that open from 1400 there being tested. And we can see how low the probabilities are for that current hour, 3.57%. So some nice trade opportunities there and align with the indicators. Hope that helps give a quick review of how I like to use the indicators aligned with the H4 and with those 5-minute change in state of deliveries. If you want to look into the indicators more, I'll pop a link in the comments. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.